Hey, I'd like to show you how to set up an Agile project using the Roam Agile template. First of all, you need to go to Graph Settings and you need to restore the file from the EDN template I provide. So you just simply open this and you type the name of the database where you're setting this up. You click Start and this will import the template in a few seconds. And then if you come here to start here, this is going to give you instructions of how to get started. The most important thing you need to do first is go to Roam.js and you need to enable all of these scripts to run. In my case, because I'm loading it on my own PC, again, this is all already enabled, but you will need to click Start on each of those. And then you will need to go and set up your backlog and your team, etc. So imagine this story, and I thought this would help you in better understanding how this works. Imagine that your elderly parents ask you to come over with your kids to help in the garden, and in this case your mother is the end customer, your father is the product owner, you're the scrum master, and your almost grown-up children are the developers. And as you sit down for a coffee in the kitchen, your father explains that they need help to prepare the garden for tomorrow's 50-year wedding anniversary that they're planning to host in their garden. And you learn that they need help cleaning up a little, mowing the lawn, cutting the bush, organizing flowers, setting up shades, setting up tables, and they also need your help inside, like in the kitchen. They need your help to prepare the food, fold the napkins, get some extra plates and glasses from the attic. And also in the living room, the curtains need to be taken down and washed and then put back up. There are also some pictures that should have been put up a long time ago, but this is the time to put them up. So all in all, you listen to all of this and you decide that first you're going to start in the garden, so to say that's going to be your first epic, and then you're going to head inside and get this stuff done. So let's set up Roam Agile for this story. So first of all, who's our team? Our team is going to be Dave, Julia, and let's say George, your 3 children. And then if I come back here, we need to get started with our product backlog. So right now I'm going to skip the product vision and personas. In reality, the personas would be your parents and maybe the guests. If I come here to the backlog, then I actually have prepared a bit of a story here. So I'm thinking that I have 2 epics. I have the garden and I have inside. And then in sprint 1, I would go ahead and mow the lawn, trim the bush, take the curtains down, set up the shades, organize the flowers, and then in sprint 2 it would continue and so on. So then I need to go and I'm going to be shift clicking these, and I need to set up the story for the user story for each of these. So I create my first user story, mowing the lawn. It's a big lawn, it's let's say 3 story points, and I'm going to be asking Dave to do this. And then trimming the bush. So we need our user story here as well. That's again maybe a slightly smaller task, and I'm giving this to George, while I think I'm going to be asking Julia to take the curtain down. So I'm going to say this is a user story which is actually a fairly simple one, and I'm going to be asking Julia to do this, as well as setting of the shades. I'm going to be asking Julia to do this as well. She's probably going to be ready earlier, so maybe this is another 3-story point story. And then organizing the flowers, I'm going to be asking one of the boys again, maybe I'll ask George to help with organizing the flowers, which is a 1-story point story. So with this, I've set up my stories. Of course, I've now skipped writing the story and the acceptance criteria, but in real life you would do all of that. And I go ahead and I open up the backlog in the right hand side panel. So I open this in the sidebar, and I'll open up Sprint 1 here, and I use the Sprint template to populate the sprint with the template. And first of all, I'm going to synchronize my sprint with my backlog, so that imports the stories I have. And I can also look at how many story points. So this is in total 10 story points. If I feel happy with these story points, I say that this is the sprint I want to do. I actually go ahead and start the sprint. What start sprint does is it has changed the status of my story to active. It has added the first point to my chart. So you can see I have one dot on this burn down chart, as well as if I open up any of the stories, then you can see that the status of the stories changed to active. So let's say that as the morning progresses, Dave starts to mow the lawn. Actually, Julia takes down the curtain, and she gets done with that completely, and George also manages to finish the bush, and then actually both of them, so George gets started on the flowers and Julia on the table. And this is the time when we have our first break, and during the first break we do a quick Scrum meeting, a stand-up, which I'm going to use my stand-up script. This is of course something you would do on a daily basis. This is your daily stand-up. I run the stand-up script, and it will ask me, do I want to update the burn down chart? So I'll say yes, I'd like to track what's happening on the burn down chart. And what you can see here is I can see each of my children, where they are with their tasks, what they have already completed and what still needs to be done. And as I sit down and we talk, George explains that actually the flower bed is full of weeds. So he actually makes a statement that, well, I am not feeling happy because the flower bed is full of weeds. And so then we agree that what we need to do is we actually need to add an additional story. We need someone to weed the flower bed, maybe in a next sprint, and so on. All the kids explain how they feel and what they're doing. I'm not going to go into details. However, if we go back to the sprint, what I want to show you is with this, the burn down chart was updated, so I can see the progress here. And as well as I want to show you one other thing, that in the backlog, now of course here I have nothing about the flower bed, but I have this button here that whenever I come across a story in the backlog that is missing from the backlog, I can click on find stories missing from backlog, and it will actually pick up two. I had this original story as well. This Once Upon a Time was the starting story, so I'm going to move that into cancelled items to hide it, and I'm going to move my weeding the flower bed story into my sprint 2, and with that I was able to capture this. So as the morning continues, the kids finish up all of their tasks, and the time comes to walk around with my father to accept the deliveries. So as we go around, we would open each of the stories in the right hand side panel, and we would tick off the acceptance criteria and just confirm everything is done. I'm not going to be doing that here, but what I want to show you is when I come to the end of the sprint, I click close sprint, and with that I'm prompted with a message for each of the stories. So is the lawn ready? Yes. The bush is ready? Yes. The curtains are down? Yes. The shades are up, and the flowers are organized, so everything is done. Do I want to change the sprint to close? And if I say yes, then what happens is you can see that the status of this story changed to closed, but as well, of course, the status of this sprint changed to closed, and also I would do a last update chart to have my chart updated, and I go into my backlog, and you can see that in the backlog all of these stories were closed. And then the story continues. We sit down to plan sprint 2 and so on. In the meantime, it could be that my mother looks outside and there's a bit of customer feedback to take care of, and she just lets me know that there is still some work to do on the flowers. She's not yet fully happy with the flowers, and so this is actually an additional feature request from my mother, and I'm going to be assigning this to Julia. And so then I've created an action here for Julia, and if this is maybe another user story where I need to maybe water the flowers as well. And when I've created the story here, I can actually click this to be closed, because now the story is on the list. If I come to the backlog and I look for missing stories, then I'll have water the flowers here, and it can then get into the normal prioritization of work. So maybe I can add it to sprint 2, or if sprint 2 is already too crowded, then I can come to sprint 3 and I can add it to sprint 3 and so on. So hopefully this gives you a good basic understanding of how this tool works, and it will help you get started. I highly recommend reading through the Getting Started guide. There's lots of helpful tips in terms of how you set up your product vision, how you set up your personas, and also just going through the different deliverables. And just the last point on the topic of the product vision. So I just wanted to show you one cool feature that that is a built-in feature into Roam, but comes quite handy. So you might be familiar with Mermaid, which is a diagramming tool in Roam. And what you can do in Mermaid is all sorts of different type of diagrams. Actually, there are more diagrams than listed here. So for example, I'm going to be adding a user a customer journey diagram on here. And so what you can see here is well, this is a sample customer journey diagram from the Mermaid homepage, but Mermaid is very powerful, and in Roam Agile you can use Mermaid to create all sorts of diagrams, not only customer journeys, but also flowcharts, sequence diagrams, class diagrams, Gantt charts, state diagrams, entity relationship diagrams, etc. So, hope you have found this helpful and enjoy using Roam Agile.